Hi, I'm Gigi Douban, and on this episode of Alabama Inc., what was Harrison Ford doing at Rickwood Field on a random Tuesday? A look at how a push for film incentives is bringing some big productions and some big names to the state. And Terry Brewer heads down to Luverne, Alabama to bake some rolls with the Sister Schubert, round pans and everything. And correspondent Josh Sneed talks with a guy who says, "Out with your $13 haircuts. It's the price of looking good." All that on Alabama Inc. If you live in a city like New York, New Orleans, or LA, you're probably pretty used to seeing crews shutting down streets and setting up lights to start shooting a film. Well, in Alabama, it's not all that common. What you might not realize is that when a film company decides on a location, it doesn't just spend money there, it spends lots of money. And many states want a slice of that. Well, there's work going on behind the scenes for Alabama to get its fair share. Check it out. Looks quiet on the outside, just like any other night at Sloss Furnace in Birmingham. But inside, there are dozens of crew members getting ready to work well into the night. There are stunts to rehearse and fake explosions to set off. This is Mud Brick Studios, a film production company out of Mobile. 90% of its crew? Alabamians. The film company is one of several taking advantage of Alabama's new film tax incentives. The program is a serious push to get films shot in the state. But competition in nearby states is high. So some in Alabama are asking, will it work? Director Drew Hall seems to think so.
Got it, JoJo. Wow. Good estimate, buddy. Great.
Here's where it started. 3 years ago, the state legislature passed the Entertainment Industry Incentive Act. That was the state's way of telling filmmakers that Alabama is just as good a place as any to make a movie.
Yeah, the idea of why we would want to do this or get in this game, or why are all the states looking at it, because all of a sudden everyone realized they didn't have to do it all in California. They could go anywhere and do this, and there's a lot of money in this. I mean, when big projects come in, a lot of people are hired.
Here's how it works. For what they spend here, filmmakers get 25% back from the state. So if a crew spends $1 million, they'd get back $250,000. And for films with a huge budget, that can add up to a lot of cash back.
Our work in the film industry is still in its infancy in the state of Alabama. So as we've seen the response to the incentive program that we have, the very interesting film locations that we have in the state of Alabama, because we've got a lot of geographic diversity, Alabama's becoming more and more popular.
I'm Hannah. This is my story. And it's not what you think.
One of the first films to take advantage of the tax incentives here was October Baby. Alabama native Dan Atchison produced the film.
October Baby was the first film actually to take advantage of the certified, once they had locked, this is the law, this is the process, and so we were the first to go through it.
So you mentioned the incentive program. Had that not been in place, would that have been a deal breaker for you?
Yeah, I mean, it probably would have been a deal breaker. We probably either would have moved it to one of the states in the southeast that are around us that do have a competitive tax incentive program, or we would have just waited, you know what I'm saying, until, because we knew they were talking about it, and then when it finally passed, it was like, okay, let's do this, you know, now's the time. I mean, we're shooting a Lionsgate film here. We've convinced them to bring it here, and it's because of the tax incentive. They would not have even considered bringing it here if they weren't going to get a rebate.
So, okay, Alabama's managed to land a few decent film deals, but what about the big ones? The Hunger Games was shot in the woods of North Carolina. Alabama has woods. And the television show about zombies, The Walking Dead, that's shot in Georgia. So what gives?
People ask us all the time, why are we not getting blockbuster films? Well, we can't, because the cap per project is not blockbuster material.
So what Falk is saying is that blockbuster films can easily drop $20 million on production in one state. But if Alabama limits its rebates to $10 million, filmmakers are going to look elsewhere, namely to states that don't have a cap on incentives, like Louisiana.
With these tax credits in Louisiana, it only makes sense for them to think, well, you know, what else can we shoot that's going to take place in New Orleans, or what else can we do that's going to take place in the swamp? I mean, you have television shows, Swamp People and, you know, Sons of Guns and all these things that are just created solely because they take place in Louisiana.
But Atchison says there's a point where a state can get too generous with filmmakers.
There were other states, that number got up to 40, 50%, and the problem is you can't maintain that. You can't sustain that long term, and so then the lawmakers say, wait a second, this isn't good for the state, it's only good for the filmmakers, and so they pull the rug out from underneath you. It was too lucrative for the filmmaker. And so I really think that you gotta kind of find that sweet spot, and I think that we've done that here.
Once we enter into an agreement to incentivize a film project, they've got to spend the money. They've got to make the investment necessary to hire the people from Alabama if they want to get a higher percentage payout.
Bigger productions may not be far behind. Recently, the state legislature voted to increase the cap on what it pays out to filmmakers to $20 million a year by 2014. That allows bigger productions like the Jackie Robinson story, 42, to be shot in Alabama. The production at Rickwood Field drew about 600 extras per day for 3 days, almost all Alabamians. One of them was Alan Walker of Birmingham.
I work for a construction company here in town, Stuart Perry Construction Company, and kind of neat when I signed up, sent an email. We did some of the renovations of the scoreboard here a couple months ago, about 6 months ago, and so all the guys at work are excited that I'm out here being a part of it. It's been more than I expected and surreal. Can't believe I'm out here among the directors and cast and actors. So something to be able to tell my kids and grandkids. Real excited about it.
What do you think a film like this coming here does for Rickwood Field and for the state in general?
The biggest thing it does is create awareness. Rickwood Field is the oldest ballpark in the country. Hopefully other people will see this, Hollywood types, commercial filmers, they'll see this and say, hey, this is a good spot, maybe we can come back. So we'll get to do these things more often than every 20 years.
And people here hope that awareness will keep Alabama on Hollywood's radar. Coming up next on Alabama Inc.
And said, I'm going to go to 100 employees now, and I'm going to try to grow to 7 states and then to 20 states. And
there are some very big companies that keep their roots in small places. That's the story of Patricia Barnes. She's got a recipe for success built on simple ingredients and a delicious family heirloom. And if the name Patricia Barnes doesn't ring a bell, well then maybe Sister Schubert does.
okay, something to put these eggs in. Do we have anything we can put eggs in too?
Sure you don't want that. What's on?
Okay.
That'll work.
Yeah, that'll work. And we have already pre-sifted, you know, when you're doing breads and cakes, I know everybody knows that you're supposed to do that. And of course you didn't see me, but the very first thing you do in the kitchen is tell all my little children and customers, you wash your hands.
Wash your hands. Yeah, I did that.
That's right. 7. Somebody counting with me? 8.
You always hear, make your, what is it, your vocation, your vacation. And you seem to be one of those people that has taken something that you love, that a lot of people do casually, and turned it into a huge business. And how did you get that started?
Well, it actually was, I had a small catering business out of my home back in the 80s. And I would bake these rolls of my grandmother's for parties and friends. And one year we had a frozen food fair at my church, little St. Mark's in Troy, Alabama. And I baked about 20 pans of my rolls, and they all sold. And so they asked me if they could put them on the list for the next year. And I said, of course you can. And they called me after 2 weeks and said, we've got over 200 orders for your rolls. And I said, well, stop taking orders. But we did. I taught about 10 ladies and 1 gentleman how to make these rolls. And after that, for the food fair, I thought, well, you know, maybe other people would like these rolls too. And so I started this little business of trying to make these rolls, and within 3 months I had evicted half of my father's furniture warehouse and put in some used equipment and a little mixer that was a little bit bigger than this bowl right here, but we started making rolls, and it grew as rapidly as we could grow to maintain the quality, and it has just amazed me, the popularity and the love for these rolls.
It's got to be so special too to make such a huge business based off of something that came to you from your grandmother.
A simple, basic little roll recipe that I discovered that people really liked.
Yeah,
that homemade taste.
Oh yeah,
brought back wonderful, happy family memories to everyone. That we get so many wonderful emails about that. And the one real struggle that I have encountered throughout this, because I had maintained all throughout these 20 years that we would not change one thing about how we make these rolls. And my grandmother always used the Crisco shortening, which was a partially hydrogenated oil. And so I was...
Is that the, what, trans
fats? Yes.
Okay.
And so I was very upset when the word came down, this is not good for my customers and you really shouldn't do this, because the characteristics of a partially hydrogenated oil is one of the reasons why we have such a light and fluffy product. But we, through lots of work and effort and research from everybody in this company, we have come up with an oil that is fully hydrated and is not partially hydrogenated. That is the one and only change we've made, and it was actually a change that I don't think anyone really even would know. And in the beginning, when we first started out, this is exactly how we cut out our rolls, with a little biscuit cutter. I mean, I would have ladies out there just all over the place, just cutting out biscuits, cutting out rolls, cutting them out. When you're born in the South, you usually get dubbed sister or brother if you've that many in your family. And I was the second born, and my older sister couldn't say, Charlotte couldn't say Patricia, so my parents said, well, call her sister. So she did, and my college professors did. I've just been sister all my life. So we found ourselves, after 7 short years of being in this business, corporate jets from Sara Lee and Mrs. Smith's and Hillsbury flying into this little airport wanting to talk to us about the sale of the stock. And I was loving what I was doing, and I was not in the least bit interested in doing that. And my husband, George, on one occasion told me, he said, now, I don't think it's a very smart business move on our part not to at least find out what these people think the value of our bakery is. And I said, well, if someone's willing to give me X amount of dollars for this company, I just have to take it. I'd be stupid not to. I'd be crazy. And so they did. And it was more than that. And so we did decide to do it, mostly because they asked us to stay on and continue to run the business. So I've gotten to do, for the last 11 years now, the part of this business that I loved, which is out there developing new products, being with the customers, with my hands in the dough, working with the lines. Just had the best of all worlds now for the last 11 years. Look at all that sugar.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a 500-pound bag right there. Oh. The big bags.
Some people would have been very happy at the first stage of this bakery. I would have probably not been, or I would not have taken the next step and said, I'm going to go to 100 employees now, and I'm going to try to grow to 7 states, and then to 10 states, and then to 20 states, and then expand to another bakery. And, you know, that was my dream. When I was developing the recipes for my cookbook, Cast Your Bread Upon the Waters, I said, I'm going to go back and just double check her recipe, her little handwritten recipe. And when I flipped through and found it, it was the first time that I realized the name she gave to these rolls was Everlasting Rolls. She knew before I did, and anybody, these rolls would go on forever.
Coming up next on Alabama Ink.
If you care about what you look like, then you should probably pay whatever it takes to get a good haircut.
Raise your hand if you spend $15 or less on your haircuts. It's okay, don't be shy. Well, you're about to see how one guy spends serious dough on a worthy cause, his hair. Correspondent Josh Sneed talks with Foster Cook about his trips to a little grooming place called the Mailroom.
Gentlemen, let's talk about your hair. We all have it, or at least did at some point. And when it comes to cutting it, you wouldn't think there'd be much to it. You just find the closest place, drop 13 bucks, call it a day. Well, for some people, the haircut is a full event. They plan it on their schedule 3 weeks in advance, and they spend a lot of money on it. On today's segment of People Pay for That, we're gonna meet Foster Cook, and he is one of those people. He goes to the Mailroom in Birmingham. It's a full-service, guys-only salon. Let's go check it out. All right, so Foster, you said you've been coming to the Mailroom for about 1.5 years now. What do you like about it? What do you like about going?
Well, I mean, it's, basically the relationship that you have, that they do a good job. You're getting a professional haircut. They take care of you. I mean, you've got drinks there. You can get anything you want.
So it's really the drinks.
Yeah, well,
you want to drink a beer and get your hair cut.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to drink a beer and get your hair cut, it's the place to go for sure. But, it's just, it's a good atmosphere, and they do a great job.
Some people will say that you're paying too much for a haircut.
Right.
What would you say to those people?
I'd say absolutely not. I mean, my hair is very important. I mean, I'm, in a place of business where I need to, look my best. And if you care about what you look like, then you should probably pay whatever it takes to get a good haircut.
After Foster's ringing endorsement, I thought I'd check out the Mailroom for myself.
So we're here at the Mailroom. This is Devin. Devin, how long has the Mailroom been here?
The Mailroom's been here for 4 years. September the 29th will be 4 years.
And so why men? Why the concentration on men?
Why men? Well, one of the owners, Scott Farr, he travels a lot, and there's a lot of similar barbershops to this in other states. And he said, we really need this here. Men don't really have a place where they can go, feel comfortable to get whatever they need done. So, here we are.
With Alabama Ink footing the bill, I decided to really treat myself. I got the full service priority package.
Just to warn you, I have a giant round head and I have like 5 cowlicks, or 8.
That's okay. We're gonna take good care of you today.
I feel very weird getting 2 simultaneous hand waxings. That doesn't sound right either. I feel like this is how I should be treated. Treated like a king. Okay, the guy, let's say it's the guy's first time. And all of a sudden there's 2 girls putting bags of paraffin wax on his hands and you're cutting his hair. Like, what's the usual reaction?
Kind of like what you just did.
Okay.
It feels a little weird, but it feels really good at the same time.
Oh, it's starting to like dry around my hand.
It will.
I'm gonna have a permanent Kung Fu grip once that dries. How would you compare this to other places that kind of cater to men? Like there's some that play at the sports thing and...
They do. I feel like it's more, they are just trying to get you in and get you out. Okay. They don't take their time.
What about eyebrow waxing? Because I got some stragglers here.
We do that as well.
I've never had anything waxed. Is it like, what all do you guys wax?
We do ears, nose, eyebrows, backs, arms, legs, chests.
Really? People wax their legs? Dudes wax their legs? Will you get this hair off my face? Will you gently? Do I look pretty good?
Yeah.
Oh. Do I look moisturized and fresh?
You will.
Now the mailroom has packages ranging from $22 to $55, and that can cause some sticker shock, but even the basic haircuts include things like a scalp massage, a shampoo, and a neck shave, which makes the mailroom a pretty good option.
I feel like a sheik or something.
If we were only feeding you grapes at the same time, that would be awesome.
That is
right?
such a good, you don't mind, do you? How about I eat those orange peels? Robert, get my feet. Look how short my legs are. They don't. If you go to some of the cheaper places, you kind of get what you pay for. Right?
Exactly, and you know, half the time, guys or girls are just right out of school and don't really know what they're doing, and kind of using you as their little test dummy.
Yeah. So in the end, it was a day of firsts. My first facial, first hand waxing, and the first time I didn't have to wear a hat for the first 2 weeks after my haircut.
Thank you so much.
That's our show for this week. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Check out the stories we're working on and tell us what you think. I'm Gigi Douban, and we'll see you next time on Alabama Ink.